Hi everyone, it's me, Darlene. It is story time, and I have an unusual kind of story today. It's not going to be something funny. It's just going to be about my mannequins, because I'm often asked, why do I have mannequins? I'm sure many of my viewers do not realize that I had a sewing business. It's because of that I have mannequins, and even though I stopped my sewing business back in 2011, I just didn't get rid of my mannequins. So here's the deal. Back in the year 2000, I started selling on eBay. I started by selling some craft things that I was making. One in particular were these mermaids that I had designed. They were sewn mermaids. They were super cute. This is like before mermaids were even like really a big thing. You know, now they're kind of popular, but I just decided to design a mermaid, and I made some dolls and I sold them for like next to nothing. I quickly found out that selling crafts on eBay was just not a way that I was going to make money, because I needed a lot of time to make the things I was making, and then they don't always sell, you know, that kind of thing. So I was looking for something that I could knock out quick and sell. So I thought, how about I make plus size shirts, because I was a plus size back then, super size back then, not as super as I am now, but I was still a plus. You know, I thought maybe there's a need for that, because it's really hard to get plus size clothes in stores, even at the size I was then, almost impossible for me now. So I started searching on eBay to see, you know, just what was selling, you know, what other people had for auctions. And of course there were the typical manufactured shirts and, you know, button-up shirts and things like that in really big sizes, but they were kind of pricey. And then I came across just a style, you know, a free-flowing, like I'm wearing. I call it like a muumuu style or a caftan style. It's just a piece of fabric, and you just cut the little sleeves and, you know, just a shape like that. No set-in sleeves, nothing like that. And I thought, well, I could make that pretty easy. And we had an awesome fabric store where Andy and I lived at the time. So I went to the fabric store and I bought some wide fabric, and I made a couple of shirts and I put them on eBay and I sold them. Then after a while I started looking into more interesting fabrics, and that's when I started getting hooked up with wholesalers, where I would buy India tapestries, which are just like a printed blanket, but they're very, you know, they're thin, 100% cotton. You see people like hippies hanging them on their walls, things like that. You'll see them at fairs. And so I found a wholesaler. India Arts, they still exist. I loved them. I loved them. The service was awesome. They're based out of California. Did such good business with them for many years and still have their catalogs. I was able to get the tapestries fairly cheap, some as low as like $4 each, up to like $6, $7, in that range, some a little bit more, but I had to buy in bulk. And then I also hooked up with a sarong dealer. I think it was One World Sarong was my favorite. I think I had two that I did business with a lot. So I started making these really just pretty tunics, I always called them. And what I would do is I would make the hole for the neck and sew that, but then I left the rest just fabric. And whoever would win my auctions, I had my own size chart set up, could tell me what size and what length they wanted me to finish it as. So this was quite the time-consuming business, because I did custom work, and you know, it wasn't like a quick transaction, because the auction would end. Sometimes it would be hard to get the person to pay. Once they pay, sometimes it would be back and forth with, I need you to tell me what size you want so I can send this to you. But after a while, I got a nice base of customers who were just addicted to my clothing and would just fight over the tops that I made. And since I used fabrics like India tapestries and sarongs, my items were quite unique, and many of them one of a kind, because I was never sure if I'd be able to get another fabric the same, or I would just say to them, I'm not ordering this one again, so this is the last one. If you want it, you can go for it. Some of my auctions, I think the best I did was one woman won 2 tunics that I almost always started them at $9.99, but for a long time I started them as a penny because I just knew no matter what they would bid them up. One woman won 2 of them for a total of almost $400 for just 2 shirts. I mean, it was just such a cool business. I was in right at the right time, and it worked out really well for me. But let's back up a little bit. When I first started making these shirts, I had no way to model them. In those days, there's no way I would have even thought of putting one on myself and being seen in front of the camera. And I didn't even have, when I first started eBay, I didn't even have a digital camera, nothing. It was just, I took some pictures with my husband's Polaroid and had to scan them. I mean, that's how ancient it was. I had actually taken a 3-way lamp, like this one that I have right here. It's just 3 lamps. I had somehow constructed a cardboard form that I would put over the lamps, and then I could drape the unfinished shirt over that. Then I made 2 cardboard arms that I could attach into that form that I made so that it would, let the shoulders, the fabric spread a little bit so they could see the print of the design on the shirt. And I called her Flo because my grandmother's name was Florida, and I just gave that 3-way light mannequin a name of Flo because I just thought of my grandmother. And that's how I started displaying the shirts that I was selling. Well, it didn't take too long that I needed a better system, and I just must have looked up mannequins on the internet, and I told my husband there's a place that sells mannequins, and I didn't know that it still existed, but it does. It was called Modern Mannequin, and it was on Little York Road or something like that. I will show you the screen. And so we took a ride out there one day, and did I say this is in Houston? Yes, this is in Houston. And I walked in, and this was a house, an actual house, not a business, in a residential area, and every nook and cranny was mannequins. I've never seen anything so interesting yet so scary all at the same time. And there was a little old lady. Well, she couldn't have been all that old because I see she's still there. And this is 17 years ago. And her daughter, and I remember now her daughter's name was Sherry, and they were just the sweetest things. So it was a family business. Sherry had taken over the business. Her mother was still there. They repaired mannequins and would sell them. And the house was filled with mannequins, all kinds of mannequins. I spent a good part of the day, well, it couldn't have been that long because my husband was with me. I don't think he would have tolerated spending a whole entire day in a house filled of mannequins. But I don't know, maybe he went in the car and drank. I don't remember. But I spent time looking at mannequins, and some of them were like plastic, but most of them were plaster, and they were expensive. And I was like, I don't care, I want a mannequin. And I told them, I said, I sell plus sizes, and they explained the biggest we have in plus sizes of mannequins is like a size 16. And they showed me like some plus size mannequins, and when I saw the one that I have, and I'll show you her right now, I was like, okay, cool, I think this is the one I want. What I liked about her is that her arms, are a little bit to the side, so when I would drape the fabric on her, it would show the print pretty well. It was $1,000 for that mannequin. I just looked on their site, and I see a lot of the mannequins now are only $400. I think that mannequins even 17 years ago were still more popular than they are now. You don't see mannequins in a store at all, unless, I don't know, in malls maybe. I don't go shopping. I go to Walmart. There's no mannequins at Walmart. And it was a German brand of mannequin, and I tried to find the names, and none of them strike me as the name that this mannequin is. I don't know if it's even written on my mannequin somewhere, but I don't feel like going up and looking right now. But it was a well-known name of mannequin, and it was an expensive brand, and I didn't care that it was $1,000 because realistically, back then, I could make $1,000 in a week on eBay, so that wasn't like a big investment to me. And I just really wanted it, and I ended up buying that mannequin, took it home, and that mannequin for sure made all my money back. Now, I know I bought it in 2001 because we had moved to a house. We had bought a house, and that is where the mannequin first lived, with us in the house, in the living room with us. And I got a wig with it. I didn't have to pay for the wig. She says you can have one wig, and I picked an auburn wig that I really loved, and I had so much fun doing the mannequin's hair. And then I would go on eBay and buy all kinds of wigs. I would win auctions for wigs for like $3 and $4 each, and I probably have 20 to 30 wigs, but they're all knotted up and stuff now, so I have to take care of them. I have to bring them down here and wash them, put a little bit of hair conditioner, and try to get the snarls out, and so I can start playing with my wigs again. But it was like I had this gigantic Barbie doll. I was in my glory. I just loved it. So that mannequin encouraged me to try all kinds of other things, and as many things as I did make, nothing made the money for me like the plus size tunics. And even though I dabbled with other things, I was catering to very large women, you know, 500-pound women, 400-pound women. I mean, these women were large, and my biggest size was the most popular. It was sizes that I made up. It was a 15X, and it was like 115 inches around. So that's a pretty big woman that goes inside something like that. But of course, some of them liked it loose. But what these women loved is they could pick the size and they could pick the length. They got to know me. They knew that they could trust that I was going to give them what they expected, and then that they loved, you know, seeing what kind of fabrics I would find. So my mannequin just, you know, I never regretted that mannequin, not even for a minute. Then I went on another little business on the side, which I have never mentioned. We'll keep that for next story time. How's that? I have a kind of interesting story time to tell you about. Anyway, so I loved my mannequin, and the only downfall about the mannequin is it's hard to put pants on her because you have to take her torso off, and then the whole button legs have to come off. Then you have to drop the pants over the butt pole, and then, you know, so it doesn't work. But that didn't really matter to me because I wasn't into making pants at all. So I would just keep a skirt on her and drape the fabrics of the tunics that I made, and that was that. So it was pretty simple. I didn't even have to take the arms off because I could just drape the neck hole over her. Nothing was finished. Okay, so then my husband and I moved back to Maine so I could take care of my father. At the time was sick, and that was in 2000, at the very end of 2001. So 2002, we were living here. At some point, we went back to visit in Texas, and I paid a visit to Modern Mannequin, and I said I'd like a teenager mannequin because I had it in my mind that I was going to start to make things for the younger crowd, smaller crowd. I did indeed find another one, the same brand of the one that I have now, which I can't remember, and she was $800. And then they said they would package it and ship it to me, and I was just happy to see Sherry and her mother, and I just thought it was super cool that they were still in business. And so that mannequin never paid off for me. I got it, and I just was not inspired to make the smaller clothing because I knew my audience was big women. I just never, I don't know if I ever took a picture of her to sell anything on eBay. I have now because I used her for my most recent Upcycled Fashions. But at the time, I just felt so bad because I was like, I wasted $800 on a mannequin that's not going to make any money for me. But I thought she was super cute, and I always said, something will come around. I'll be able to use her eventually. And then, after 11 years of sewing, in 2011, I closed up shop. I was just burnt out. I couldn't make the money I was once making, so I started my coupon blog, and that's when I started doing that. So I just moved from one business to the other and just left sewing behind, and I think I was like 2 years before I even looked at my sewing machine. But my mannequins still existed upstairs in a bedroom. So now when I started dabbling with Upcycled Fashions, I am all back into enjoying my mannequins. I want to get the wigs all cleaned up and combed and ready. And I think now I will totally be able to use the smaller mannequin because I'm sure there'll be a lot of smaller things that I need to put on a model and she'll be perfect. So she is going to make her money back for me at some point. So I was really glad about that. But let me show you Modern Mannequin just for a little bit. This is their homepage, and you know, I thought my mannequin started with an H, but I don't remember it being that. I bet you if I contacted Sherry and said, do you remember me? I once lived in Texas and then I moved to Maine and you guys sent me a mannequin, she probably would remember and know what mannequins they sold me. I don't know if these are just actual pictures of their house, but I'm telling you, this is what I walked into. Every room of that house was wall-to-wall mannequins just standing around like that. It was just an amazing sight. I totally loved it. I would never want to sleep in that house. I would be scared to death. But it was so cool. And you can see there's some mannequins here that are just really realistic looking. Yes, and then they had parts in the house that were all like just broken hands or when you can rent some. Okay, here is the people. This is Tom, the husband who died, and this is Sherry, the one that I did business with, and her mother Timber, and that's their son Thomas. So yep, if you live in Houston, it's on 619 Little York Road. Take a peek in that place and walk around. It's kind of interesting. So I don't know if there's anything else I can tell you about my mannequins. I just really feel fortunate to have them. I don't know that I would ever get rid of them because as long as I can craft, I think there will always be a time where I could possibly put them to good use. And I'm certainly going to do my best to do that. I'm trying to get a room upstairs emptied out completely so that I can have them in the center of the room so I can freely walk around them to take pictures of the back also, because those mannequins are heavy and they're on big heavy glass plates and you can't just like pick them up and turn them because legs want to move and things get off balance and it's just not easy to move them. I would have always loved like a dolly, a round dolly on wheels that I could have put them on. That would have been so cool. I dream of that I could have just rolled them around. I'd like to have them back in my living area downstairs. I did at one time have them here, but I'm so filled up with furniture and things, I just don't have a place. But I would love that if I could park them on a dolly in a corner, and then I should be able to make a dolly. I mean, I just need some plywood and some wheels. I need to do that. You know, and then if I want to walk around them, I could just roll them out into the middle of the room. But anyway, that's the story of my mannequins. I don't know how interesting that was, but it just took me down memory lane and how I had gone there and just fell in love with the mannequins and then hated my second one. My little teen girl mannequin that I was like, I wasted money on you. You did not work out for me. And I should have known that. I think at that point I just wanted my big mannequin to have a little sister or something. I don't know. I started to get weird about it. It's like playing with life-size dolls. It's just, I just love it. And they have pierced ears and they're pretty realistic looking. Yes, you even saw the boobs in one of my videos of my bigger one. She's kind of busty and I just like them. Oh, and they also have like a soft spot on their head. So when you put a wig, you can put a pin in their head. Interesting. Not. All right. Thank you for watching. I will be back with another story time. I might not do that the next one. I don't know. We'll see how I feel about it. But I do have a story time that I probably should share. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye. I just sent an email to Sherry at Modern Mannequin to see if she would remember me at all. And I sent her a picture of each of my mannequins to see if she can identify the make. I will let you know if I find out. Bye.